What's up, people? Jay here for PWFEmpire.com with my WWE Extreme Rules 2017 review. The match that kicked off the night was the Intercontinental Championship match. Dean Ambrose, the reigning and defending champion, going into the match, but that defense didn't go according to plan as far as he was concerned, because our new Intercontinental Champion is The Miz. And as far as I'm concerned, The Miz should be the eternal IC champion, because The Miz is the single greatest thing to happen to the Intercontinental Championship in modern day WWE. And if you have an argument to state otherwise, go right ahead and do so, because shit, it may as well be John Cena to me, because I can't see it. I can't see how any entity on the face of this planet could be better for that title than The Miz is, because the way that he speaks with such passion when he's talking about the Intercontinental title, it's, dare I say, awesome. And you want to know what else is awesome? This match that they had tonight at Extreme Rules. I love the story of the match that Dean Ambrose is a habitual line stepper, but he couldn't go anywhere near that line, and he actually had to restrain himself throughout various points in the match, because if he got disqualified, he was going to lose the championship. Now, with that stipulation, my first thought, as soon as the bell rung, what's to stop Maurice from just going and slapping the shit out of The Miz and in turn disqualifying Dean Ambrose and just giving a championship right over to her husband? And, you know, I was sitting back and I like I said, that was my initial thought, but the match then started to play out, and I was really enjoying the action in the match, and it actually factored into the ending, because The Miz, he saw he was in a little bit of trouble. He gets to the apron, Maurice jumps up there, he's like, slap me, slap me. She actually does it. The ref is like, nah, bruh, get the hell out of here, Maurice. And then, you know, Miz shoves Dean Ambrose into the, I think he shoved him into the ref, and, you know, a lot of shit going on. Yeah, he pushed him into the ref. The ref, you know, flies out of the ring, and he was about to get disqualified at that point, but then The Miz hits him with a skull-crushing finale, and The Miz actually wins the match. And one thing that I loved about it, in addition to the story from Dean Ambrose's perspective, him restraining himself, it gave The Miz so much confidence to know that this dude is a crazy motherfucker, but he can't get too crazy in this match. So now it's my time to shine. And the confidence that he displayed in this match, it was great. It really was. And I love the narrative that was painted at the announcer's table, because this isn't something that you hear too much about The Miz, but it was on display tonight at Extreme Rules. His in-ring IQ. Like, we know The Miz to be smarmy, we know him to be crafty and things like that, and, you know, cowardly at times, but they don't talk about The Miz being a smart heel. They really talked about it tonight, and you could see those moments play out in the match. I love that one point where Dean Ambrose, he kind of like tweaked his leg a little bit, and The Miz just flowed right into the figure four. That was good stuff. A lot of good spots in this match. Overall, really entertaining match from The Miz and Dean Ambrose. And once again, The Miz is our IC champion. That title is right where it needs to be. The next match at Extreme Rules was a disappointment. Alicia Fox and Noam versus the team of Sasha Banks and Rich Swann in a mixed tag match. The sole reason why I say that this match was a disappointment is the fact that it did not feature the absolutely beautiful, perfect, pristine, the majestic Northern Lights suplex from Alicia Fox. I don't know how the hell you possibly book an Alicia Fox match that does not feature the Northern Lights suplex, like, sprinkled somewhere throughout the match. How is this possible? I don't want to even believe that this is the reality that we exist in the year 2017. So maybe I'm thinking that I blinked and missed it, or I was on Twitter, took my eyes away from the WWE network, and it happened then. Like, I don't know. But all I know is that I feel as if a grave injustice has been committed, and I'm triggered as fuck right now. I really am. I am pissed off to the highest level of pissivity, and somebody needs to pay. Somebody seriously needs to pay. I want to start a protest. I've been making up signs. No Northern Light suplex, no stars. And I understand that Rich Swann, you know, he did a Phoenix Splash to win the match for his team, and I guess that was cool or whatever. But yeah, look, I'm giving this one 2 unfrosted Pop-Tarts out of 5. Next match. You want to talk about a disappointment? Lord have mercy. Alexa Bliss defending the Raw Women's Championship versus Bayley in a kendo stick on a pole match. This match was a hot-ass motherfucking mess. It truly was. And I'd be lying if I stood here and said that I didn't know what WWE was attempting to accomplish. I get it. I know what they were trying to do with the booking, but I also know that it fell flat on its friggin' face because the character of Bayley is so damaged to the point that it could not support the kind of booking that this match had. Bayley's character is so rotted to the damn core that if we're looking at this like building houses or something like that, the booking of this match was the house, and Bayley's rotted ass core of her character, that's the foundation. And if you're building a house on a cracked foundation, you're putting the entire structure at risk. And we saw this structure come crumbling down at Extreme Rules. And, you know, I'm not an architect or anything like that. I hope that shit made sense. Hopefully y'all got what I was talking about. Basically, Bayley's character sucks. Let's put it in terms that every single person understands. Going into this match, what we needed to believe, what WWE needed for us to believe to make this match make sense was that Bayley was this super duper babyface that was never going to be put in any position where she would compromise her morals, her values, and her beliefs, even if in the process of her compromising what she stood for, it was going to get her what she desired in the end. That's what they needed us to believe about Bayley's character. But guess what? That's bullshit. I know it to be BS, specifically based off of things that I've seen Bayley do on the main roster on Monday Night Raw. Let's rewind back to the time when she won the Raw Women's Championship. As we all know at this point, she won due to interference from Sasha Banks. Sasha basically cheated for her, helped her win the title, and also helped her retain the Raw Women's Championship. On Monday Night Raw, Stephanie comes out and she says, you know what, Bayley? All of these people are watching you. You want to be an inspiration to these people, but you cheated. Your friend cheated on your behalf to give you that Raw Women's Championship. If you are the person that you think you are, and if you are the true inspiration and this morally righteous person, and you want to send this message and create this image for yourself, you need to relinquish that title. And if you're as good as you say you are, then you'll win it back fair and square the next time. Bayley said, hell no, I'm not giving up this championship. So we've seen her before. Sasha Banks cheated on her behalf. She knew about it, and she said, you know what? She may have cheated, but fuck it. I want the title, so I'm not giving it up. I'm going to keep the title. In that moment, she compromised what she stood for because she knew it was going to get her something that she wanted in the end. So she did that, and we're supposed to believe that she couldn't take it a step further with Alexa Bliss at Extreme Rules? Are you fucking kidding me? Sasha Banks cheated for her. That was against the rules then. Using the kendo stick, that wasn't just allowed, that was the whole fucking purpose of the match. So you're telling me you can't do something that is within the rules of the match? That would have been a step too far. But you being all defiant and keeping a championship that you know you won by nefarious means, that was okay? What the fuck type of sense does that make? With the character of Bayley, none of this stuff makes sense. And I posted this on Twitter. All of this stuff that we've seen from Alexa Bliss outside of the whole This Is Your Life segment, because she's been doing some great stuff. You know, if you completely forget about that one, I don't think that's going to be too hard for people to do. Forget about that This Is Your Life shit. I've been scrubbing my brain trying to forget about it. And as you can see, it's not working so far, so I need to scrub a little bit more, but I digress. Alexa Bliss has been doing some great things on Monday Night Raw, but I do need to acknowledge the fact that Alexa Bliss's success on Monday Night Raw comes at the direct expense of Bayley's character, because what WWE was doing before Alexa Bliss made her way over to Monday Night Raw, they were telling a story with Sasha Banks and Bayley where at some point Sasha was going to turn heel on Bayley, and it was going to be revealed that Sasha Banks was manipulating Bayley along the way, because if you remember that segment with Stephanie, Sasha Banks is the one that came out and she's like, Bayley, don't give up that championship. You keep that title and yada, yada, yada. So at this point, I'm able to say that all of this shit that Bayley is doing, it doesn't make any sense, and it's compromised her character to a point where she has a rotten ass foundation. But If they had actually gone through with that heel turn for Sasha Banks, and Sasha Banks revealed herself to be manipulating Bayley, and Bayley was just gullible, and she believed so much in the power of friendship that she was doing things that weren't native to her. Like, I was doing things that, you know, I wasn't being myself, and I understand that now, and I'm going down a new path. WWE nixed that storyline for the benefit of Alexa Bliss and shaking things up in the division. And now we have a person like Bayley who's in this match. Like I said, she has a terrible character. They booed her. Somebody who should be the top fucking babyface in the company, male or female, they booed her at Extreme Rules. That is a colossal failure that I can't even begin to put into words. But we have Bayley there, and then Sasha Banks competing in an irrelevant-ass match that we all know it's irrelevant, but you know it's a problem when the announcers, when the commentators start saying it's irrelevant too. Booker T is sitting at commentary saying, oh, Rich Swann, he doesn't have any pressure competing tonight. He's thinking about the Cruiserweight Championship, basically saying, yeah, fuck this match. There's nothing on the line, no stakes here. You know, he's looking at the next step. So we have those two strong characters that could have been the best feud going on in WWE today, male or female. And they're at where they are right now in Extreme Rules. It's terrible, but I mean, we got Alexa Bliss out of it, so yay. Not really for me. That championship, that, you know, top tier scene in the Raw Women's division, it is in trouble. Now we move from one championship match with an extreme stipulation to another, and thankfully for this viewer, this one actually did deliver. This was a steel cage match, Matt and Jeff Hardy, the Raw Tag Team Champions, versus the team of Sheamus and Cesaro, our new Raw Tag Champions. Sheamus and Cesaro, they escaped the cage before both Hardys did. Now I say they escaped the cage before both Hardys because at one point Jeff did escape the cage, but the thing with this match was that both teammates needed to be outside of the ring at the same time for you to be deemed the victor. And with Jeff escaping the cage before Matt did and him still being in the ring, that was like the really big substantive part of the match. We got so many great moments out of that. We got the double Celtic cross from Sheamus and Cesaro to Matt Hardy, and then I believe it was one point in the match where Jeff was trying to get back into the cage through the doorway, but Sheamus bro-kicked the door and it slammed it to Jeff. And then you had all of those very highly intense moments where they're at the top of the cage battling back and forth. You know, Matt is trying to get over to the outside and then they're pulling him back down. And then, yeah, there was a lot of great stuff going on in this match. This one was very intense. It was hard hitting. Of course, you're going to get that anytime you get Sheamus and Cesaro in the ring. We got some very nice spots too. Jeff with the whisper in the wind from the top of the cage. Some high spots in this match, some great shit going on, and all in all, a very entertaining bout between the Hardy Boys and the new tag team champions, Sheamus and Cesaro. Continuing on with the championship trend at Extreme Rules was this next match, Austin Aries versus the king of the Cruiserweights, Neville, and his crown, that Cruiserweight Championship. It was on the line in this match. As you all should know at this point, one of my big sayings is criticize when necessary, but give credit where credit is due. In these very, very, very dark days in WWE, there's a whole lot of stuff out there to criticize. But when it comes to Neville and Austin Aries, I am so glad that they allow me to just sit back and be wrapped up in the moment, the match, the feud, because this has truly been a wonderful story that's been told at every single stop. We look at the origins of this feud with Neville just being super dominant, running roughshod over the Cruiserweight division. Austin Aries presents himself as a worthy challenger, and he was close to beating Neville at WrestleMania. He got even closer at Payback, and then he actually defeated him, the very first person to outright defeat Neville in this most recent run of his in WWE. He did that on Monday Night Raw, and tonight was supposed to be the night where Austin Aries let everyone know, I'm not just at the Neville level, I've exceeded that, I've gone past that, and he was supposed to capture that Cruiserweight Championship. But all the while Austin Aries was chasing Neville, Neville was concocting a plan, and he executed that plan to a friggin' T. You enter TJP, and TJP, he was basically hired by Neville as a mercenary to take out Austin Aries, and that's where we get the knee injury that comes into play, and it definitely came into play in this match tonight, because if you looked at the match and how the story was told in this match, Austin Aries was kicking ass. He was on fire up until the point where he re-aggravated that knee injury. And from that point on, the pendulum shifted, the momentum shifted in favor of Neville, and there was no looking back. He rolled right into, as the match rolled on, the ending sequence of the match, he hits Austin Aries with the red arrow. Then he locks in the rings of Saturn. Austin Aries, he taps out. This was a submission match, and what a friggin' awesome submission match it was. A lot of great spots in this match, and the story of these two, it's just, man, I friggin' love it, and I wish they would get the credit that they truly deserve, but it's like, just because they're cruiserweights, there's always going to be a ceiling on how much you can praise them, or how much people can like, or how far they could possibly go. Because when you look at it, like, you could tell, I think the crowd was chanting, "We want beach ball" during the match, not even fucking allowing themselves to be entertained by someone like Neville, who I believe is one of, if not the best character in WWE today. There's a friggin' continuous story that's being told over months-long story that is consistent, that's being told with this fucking dude with such a great character, dominant, intelligent, and you can see it in the actions that he takes and the things that he says on the mic, what he does in the ring. Like, what possibly could you ask more of from what we see? I don't get it. And I feel like every time I talk about the cruiserweights, I can't just say, yeah, this is good or this is great. I always approach them in a different way, because I feel like anytime that I talk about the cruiserweights, it's an opportunity for me to sell someone else on the awesomeness of what we're seeing from Neville and Austin Aries. I just hope people are getting it. I really do, because this is some fucking great stuff. It truly is. And the main event at Extreme Rules was a #1 contenders match for Brock Lesnar's Universal Championship. This match featured Finn Balor, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, Bray Wyatt, and the eventual winner of the match, Samoa Joe. Before I get to the winner, because that's pretty fucking huge, let's talk about some of the elements of the actual match. Speaking of Samoa Joe, one of the themes throughout this match was a partnership, this, temporary alliance that he formed with Bray Wyatt. They were wreaking havoc, specifically on Finn Balor, just beating his ass all over the place. And that's one of those temporary partnerships that you form in these multiple person matches, where it's like, yeah, let's take this person out, and once we're done with that person, we're gonna, it's gonna come down to just us two. And, whenever we get to that point, we'll get there. Gotta say, I wasn't really feeling that too much, especially knowing what I know about Samoa Joe, with him, for much of his time on the main roster, just being Triple H's lackey, or if you can't even go that far to call him a lackey or a puppet or anything like that, he was doing the bidding of Triple H. He was a hired hand. And then for him to be in that role, seemingly for Bray Wyatt during this match, I just didn't like the way that that was booked, and I wasn't really feeling that too much. Something that I actually was feeling, Roman Reigns. Ever since he had this match with The Undertaker at WrestleMania and going into his feud with Braun Strowman, I have been fucking loving how Roman Reigns has been booked in the ring. The dude brings a presence to the ring where he throws out this line, "This is my yard." One thing that's very important for me when it comes to the superstars in WWE, these characters, if you say this person is a certain way, you better make damn sure when they're in the ring, you book them like that. If this is a narrative that you want to exist for this person, make sure you make them act that out when they are in the ring. And when the match kicked off, everybody is bouncing all over the place, and Roman Reigns is just pacing back and forth in the ring like, yeah, you little peons, you fight, because this is my domain here. I felt it. I really did. And I love the presence that he brings, ever since he, beat The Undertaker, and then, all of the stuff that was going on with Bray Wyatt. That's some great shit from Roman Reigns. And continuing on talking about Roman Reigns and praising Roman Reigns, there was a point in the match where the ringside area looked like a fucking disaster zone. And the reason why it looked like a disaster zone is because we had Finn Balor locked into, I believe it was a coquina clutch by Samoa Joe. Then Roman Reigns spears both of them through the security barricade. Wreckage right there. Seth Rollins goes to the top rope and does a frog splash onto Bray Wyatt, who was laid out on one of the commentary tables. And yeah, it just looked like a friggin' disaster zone at ringside. So Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins crawl up from the wreckage. They get into the ring, start circling around. And when I tell you I felt Shield feels in that moment, if you don't know what Shield, you gotta know what Shield feels are, because Shield was friggin' awesome. I absolutely loved the Shield, and anytime I can reminisce about that and just all of those thoughts running through my head about, them talking about how they were gonna take over the business, whether they were partners or opponents, they were just gonna take over the business, and to know that they caused all of that friggin' damage, and the crowd is chanting, "This is awesome," and they just get up very slowly because they're selling that pain, and then they get into the ring and they're facing off. My God, I loved that. I fucking love that. So they start battling, and this is the point where the match, you can tell that things are about to end. And I honestly didn't even think too much about like predictions going into this show, so I had no idea who was gonna win. I knew that it wasn't going to be Roman Reigns because Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns. Of course, you want to save that for a bigger stage. So I knew it wasn't going to be Roman Reigns, but I'm like, okay, who's actually going to win here? And the match is playing on, and Roman Reigns, he's doing his, big match stuff. More praise for Roman Reigns. Say what you want about him and, that he can't wrestle. That's bullshit, by the way. But say what you want about his in-ring moveset, but it is so perfectly tailored to those big moments in matches, to where if you want the crowd to get hyped up and you want those big spots when, like those high stakes moments, Roman Reigns is nearly perfect in those moments. And we saw that play out in this match towards the closing moments of the match. So it ended with Samoa Joe locking in the coquina clutch on Finn Balor. Then Finn Balor, he couldn't answer the count, so the ref just called a submission, and Samoa Joe wins the match. Samoa Joe is a #1 contender. Samoa Joe is going to face Brock Lesnar for the Universal Championship. I posted a tweet on Twitter, and it was a gif of The Miz going fucking insane, just like, I don't even remember what this moment was from, but he was going insane at the commentary table. That was my reaction. Literally, that was my fucking reaction, because I'm like, oh my God, Samoa Joe versus Brock Lesnar is literally a dream match of mine. When people talk about dream matches and things like that, a lot of the times they do things that can't happen. For me, at the top of my list, a match that could possibly happen, what would be that dream match for you? Samoa Joe versus Brock Lesnar was that match for me. The fact that it is real, it's gonna happen, it blows my fucking mind. It truly does. And I think that this is wonderful. Now, that does not mean that I have no issues with the fact that Samoa Joe has been named the #1 contender, because as I talked about already, this was a hired hand for Triple H. There hasn't been much established on the main roster for Samoa Joe as an individual with his own motivation. So that definitely is an issue, but that's an issue that can be talked about at a later date. Right now, I want to focus on the fact that I'm fucking excited about seeing one of my literal dream matches in Samoa Joe versus Brock Lesnar. I think that that's truly awesome. So yeah, we'll see how everything plays out. I'll say that Extreme Rules, it was definitely an enjoyable experience sitting back and watching all of this stuff happen. The one biggest fail for me, I talked about already, was Alexa Bliss versus Bayley. Other than that, and no Northern Lights suplex in the match. Good show. I'll give it a grade of R. I'll give it an R. So yeah, that's it for my review of Extreme Rules. Let me know your thoughts on the show down in the comment section below, and follow me on Twitter at PWF Empire. Until next time, catch you later. Peace.